We always tell people that we like to start out amicably. You can always ratchet things up if you need to, but you can't sort of put the toothpaste back in the tube once you've started out, scorched earth or something. And as I said, drama is expensive.
Are there ways you can possibly lower the cost of your divorce? How about some expert advice? That's what we're going to get on this episode of Ask the Lawyer. Hi, everybody. I'm Judy Maggio with AskTheLawyers.com, and my guest today is Austin lawyer Jimmy Vaught. Before we get started, though, I want to remind you that if you want to ask Jimmy any questions about your particular situation, just visit AskTheLawyers.com, click the button at the top of the page that says Ask a Lawyer, and it will walk you right through that process. Jimmy, so good to see you. Thank you so much for helping us out today.
Good to see you, Judy. I'm happy to help.
Well, first of all, as an experienced divorce attorney, what advice do you have for a person who's thinking about filing but's worried about the cost and the potential contentious nature of a divorce?
Well, you know, the cost is the cost, and my advice would be don't cheap out on something, particularly if children are involved or there's substantial assets. As far as the cost and the contentiousness of a divorce kind of go hand in hand, I always say that drama is expensive, and so to the extent that people can keep it lower key and keep the drama tamped down, so to speak, that's going to keep the cost down and also probably make it less contentious. We always tell people that we like to start out amicably. You can always ratchet things up if you need to, but you can't sort of put the toothpaste back in the tube once you've started out, scorched earth or something. And as I said, drama is expensive.
And getting divorced can be very expensive, and people worry about the cost. What tips would you have for people who want to save money during the process?
Well, one of the most expensive parts typically is formal discovery. That's when the parties send written requests for numerous documents, maybe 50, 60 categories of documents, a series of written questions to be answered. So to the extent that people can basically get us documents, not drag it out of them, and cooperate as much as possible, that's going to keep the cost down. And you could probably say, as far as, on otherwise, other instances, just basically being responsive to us really helps. So we actually are not sort of spending time, trying to drag things out of people or track people down, things like that. The other part is, like I said, avoid the drama, and I was I reached a case where there were kind of, I'd say, like high school bickering and hijinks and stuff to the people. So the more people make it difficult, quite frankly, the more expensive it is.
So what should someone do if they really want to settle and just get it over with, but the other spouse is kind of being irrational, and unnecessarily turning up the heat? What do you do in a situation like that?
Well, the other party is really irrational. There's not pretty much about the only option is to go to court, because if they're truly irrational, any kind of settlement negotiations or mediation, things like that, they're very unlikely to settle, and they're probably, we just usually have to take those cases to court.
What about advice for parents in particular, going through a divorce and lessening the impact on the children involved?
Well, first of all, try to reassure the children that both parents love them, and also to avoid disparaging the other parent. We do have difficult times with, one parent bad-mouthing another parent to the kids. Obviously, that doesn't help the kids or the parents. Another thing to consider is counseling for the children, particularly if they're old enough, because based on the circumstances, some cases are more difficult, and we frequently encourage people to for the children to get counseling to sort of work their way through the divorce.
Do you think that spouses should try to do a divorce on their own? And if not, how do you go about choosing a good divorce attorney?
Well, if someone doesn't have any children or property or joint credit, doing it themselves may be okay. Where you get into trouble is if someone has children or significant assets and they try to do it themselves, then they, without any kind of legal guidance, then there can be unintended consequences, quite frankly, that they just don't appreciate. And so, if someone has children or significant assets, they really should hire a lawyer. And as far as choosing somebody, that's a really personal decision. Normally, look at the person's reputation. Do they have a qualified staff? Don't just Google them and accept the first person you see. And also ask some other professionals, such as a banker, a lawyer in a different field, or like a real estate agent, people like that, or even friends if they've had experience. But I always tell people when we're talking to them initially, is that there's a lot of good lawyers in the Austin area, and you need to find someone that you're comfortable with. Mm. And so sometimes it's a personality fit, and sometimes it's not.
Great advice today, Jimmy. Very helpful information. We sure appreciate you answering our questions.
Sure thing. I'm happy to help.
Well, that will do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been Austin lawyer Jimmy Vaught. Don't forget, if you want to ask Jimmy your questions about your situation, it's easy to do. Just visit AskTheLawyers.com. Click the button at the top of the page that says Ask a Lawyer. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Judy Maggio with Ask the Lawyer.